Yo, welcome to the Shane's Take Podcast. I'm your host, Shane Norman, and today we're going to go over the AFC South draft. We're going to look at some of their offseason moves and kind of grade their draft, and make way too early projections as far as, where these teams might end up. But with that being said, the reason why I chose AFC South is because I feel like they got a couple of teams in that division that's like on the cusp. One of them being Indianapolis, and that's actually the team I'm going to start with because they're the most interesting to me. Some of their needs before the draft was obviously QB, corner, right guard. Well, really they just needed on O-line depth, but specifically right guard, as well as a slot receiver, which I think they just need receivers. I mean, I saw some potential in a couple players, but they needed receiver, as well as a will linebacker, right? So with that, they in the offseason, the Colts went ahead and they didn't really do too much. They got Isaiah McKenzie out of Buffalo. Outside of that, they didn't really do anything that was like notable. But they did have an interesting draft. It was okay, in my opinion. A lot of the different, draft analysts and things of that nature are giving him like a C+, and I can agree with that. Outside of Anthony Richardson with the first round pick, Juju Bentz, haven't seen a lot of tape on him. But, at least they addressed the need there. I did watch a little bit of Josh Downs. He looks like he has potential, but he played for North Carolina, so can't really expect to see a whole lot of targets and things like that. But, they addressed some needs. Outside of that, they didn't really do anything that impressed me in the draft at all. I think they could have done a better job. But they do have a nice nucleus, especially on defense with DeForest Buckner and Shaq Leonard leading the way. They also have some good corners, even though they lost Stephon Gilmore, in which I'm excited to talk about the team he went to. But, with Jonathan Taylor back there, and I could see the Colts being a better team next year after that draft, but they still might be bottom dwellers. We'll see. But they do have the potential to be a good team if the offensive line clicks and Anthony Richardson is somewhat of what they see in him as far as like his potential. But statistically, and then him throwing the ball into the rafters during his pro day, that would have made me pick Will Levis. But we move on to the Tennessee Titans because they're a team that kind of, I guess they had a better draft than I thought at first glance. All right, so in free agency, they went ahead. Well, their team needs were offensive tackle, wide receiver, center, and edge, which, I just didn't understand why address wide receiver in the 7th round. You took a running back in the 3rd. Maybe it just wasn't a wide receiver that you were pleased with, but pretty much anything was better than what you got, considering you didn't get anything in the offseason. But they were able to get Sean Murphy-Bunting at corner, which is a good pickup. Azeez Al-Shaair, Arden Key, and Luke Gifford. Those are linebackers, all three of them, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Arden Key's not somebody I'm very familiar with. Andre Dillard, he's a tackle that came off a bicep tear with Philly. So we'll see what that turns into. And they got Daniel Drunskill, which anybody from the San Francisco 49ers line, starting or cusp starter or rotational, they're cool. All right. So, but they got Peter Skoronski with the first pick, which I like. He plays. I've seen him play guard and tackle. He has great footwork from what I see, but I just wonder what the arm length is going to translate into, considering he's not like overwhelmingly strong. He's a big guy, but I just got to see it at the pro level, man. I just didn't really think too much of the linemen this year. I was thinking mid to late first round at best, not top 15. But hey, the Titans were able to circle back around and get Will Levis though. And with that being said, they obviously see that Ryan Tannehill, I don't see him making it out of his contract. And the fact that they didn't get him wide receiver help kind of lets me know, like, okay, first off, Tennessee's going to be a run-first team again this year. Well, it's not even about it being run-first. It's just about you're not threatening teams. There's no reason why a defense that plays you should not have 8 in the box. Is all I'm saying. But they were able to get, they got Colton Dowell out of UT Martin in the 7th round. Disappointed. I'll give them I have to give them a C. I mean, I'm just not impressed with what they've done. I think they'll be at the bottom of the division. But on to the next, man. So we got the Houston Texans. I think they really just went for it in the draft. They really swung for it. They were also a team that I think is on the cusp. Just because I like how they played at the end of the year. I thought it was inspired football for 1. 2, you saw some young talent on a defense really show up, especially in the secondary at safety. And they were able to, they took Dallas down to the wire. They took Kansas City to overtime with Davis Mills and Dameon Pierce. But obviously they didn't feel like he was a quarterback of the future, considering their team needs were quarterback, wide receiver, center, quarterback, corner, and edge. They got, in the offseason, they got Steven Sims, who's, that's okay. They got Dalton Schultz at tight end, Devin Singletary at running back, Sheldon Rankins at D tackle, and they got Shaq Mason at guard. So they addressed the interior D line. And they got Denzel Perryman. I believe he's from Cincinnati, if I'm not mistaken, maybe the Raiders. Don't quote me on that. But he's a linebacker that has started and can be rotational. So they shored up some things in the box as far as, well, I wouldn't say shored up, but they definitely went and got some things in the box in free agency for the defense. And with Devin Singletary as a complimentary back to Dameon Pierce, I think that'll work out well, as well as Dalton Schultz. It gives them that gives them a little something in the middle that they could look to. Now, I think they did a good job in free agency to complement the draft. They went and got C.J. Stroud with the 2nd pick, and then turned around and traded up for the 3rd, and got Will Anderson Jr., which I thought, man, way to go ahead and knock out them needs right away. And then they got Juice Scruggs out of Penn State at guard to bolster that offensive line. Which, I thought it was a lot of first rounders. They may have been second day guys. But it's a good thing they addressed the line with Juice. I like this tape. Tank Dell out of Houston. He looked interesting to me. He looked like he could be a good receiver in this league. He has potential to be that. I like his route running. It's a little different. It's a little choppy, but he's quick and he has good hands. So, for crying out loud, he played at Houston. So, but outside of that, I think they did good. They got Dylan Horton out of TCU at defensive end. They just really addressed some needs. They went and got a center out of Notre Dame, Jarrett Patterson. So, they definitely took it upon themselves to address their needs. Not only that, I think that with DeMeco Ryans as their head coach, I think that they become a more defensive-minded team and they become stronger. But I say Houston probably finishes in the top 3 in this division. So we move on to Jacksonville. Now Jacksonville, they're a team that has done a really good job drafting over the course of these past, 4 or 5 years. They've done a really good job. They've hit on a lot of their picks, and we've seen it culminate into a playoff berth and win. So some of their needs they felt like they needed to address was corner, the edge, tight end depth. Okay, because Evan Ingram is a stud. O-line and linebacker. Yeah, I can agree with all that. They had the 24th ranked defense. So yeah, shoring up that the middle of the field is probably a must. But I like their corner play kinda. Maybe they were young there, so addressing that was important for them, I'm sure. But from what I see in the offseason, all they really gotten was like Calvin Ridley off a suspension. And that was pretty much it. I guess they were just waiting for the draft. A lot of this division, man, 3 of these teams had at least 12 draft picks. So the Jaguars, they were able to get Anton Harrison out of OU at tackle, which is good. Protect your franchise quarterback. And then getting Benson Strange out of Penn State, maybe you took him a little early, but hey, I mean, yeah, I took him a little early. But I guess, that's a good rotational player for Evan Ingram. Then they went and got another running back in the third, which kind of didn't. Well, yeah, with the loss of James Robinson, it makes sense. But still, no, it makes perfect sense. Because I think Travis Etienne, he hurt his foot last year, and those injuries tend to linger. They don't quite just go away, even with the offseason. We saw that with Najee Harris last year. But all in all, they were able to kind of just get a little bit of everything, considering the fact they had 2 picks in the 4th, 2 in the 5th, 3 in the 5th, 2 in the 6th, 3 in the 7th. So we'll see with how many of these guys actually stay on the roster, but I really don't see it out. I mean, you got Ventrell Miller out of Florida at linebacker. So that was another need that they addressed in the 4th round. They also went for Tyler Lacey, the edge rusher out of OU, and Yazir Abdullah, another edge rusher out of Louisville. So I think they did a good job addressing those needs. I think the Texans, they get an A for me just in the whole offseason, especially the draft. They get an A+. The Jaguars, I'll give them a B. I'll give them a B. They really didn't have a whole lot that they had to go and take care of. Now, one thing I wanted to discuss was the trade talks of Derrick Henry. What an interesting story that was, right? Because one thing we hear, he's out there for some second-round draft picks. Then we hear it's nonsense. Then we hear that Philly's interested in getting him. Then we hear it's nonsense, right? So I'm just interested as to how his future plays out, especially considering the fact that they drafted a running back in the 3rd round. It lets me know that, either A, they're just dedicated to the run and they're going to take some carries away from Derrick Henry, or I don't know what that tells me. It's not anything smart. It's not telling me that you want to win right now. It's not telling me that at all. But maybe these guys saw something else that I don't see, because I'm not in the building or whatever. But anyways, these were the teams that I thought were kind of the hardest to guess. But if I'm sitting here, just if this is what we're going into the season with, the way I see it playing out is the Jaguars will win that division again, followed by the Indianapolis Colts being the second best team in that division, since they have more veteran presence and they have more they have some real winners on that team. They're just more complete right now. I think Houston will be 3rd and the Titans will be at the bottom. I could foresee another Derrick Henry injury. I could see Ryan Tannehill struggling because of his lack of competent receivers. So we'll see how that division plays out, but that's how I'm looking at it, man. I think the Titans are doing a sneaky rebuild, a microwave rebuild. But we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. But till next time, I think the next division I'm going to cover is going to be the AFC North. We'll go ahead and go up top for the next one, guys. Y'all have a good one, man. Thank you for tuning in.